Hey folks, it's author and writing coach Kevin Johns here. Welcome back to our author commentary series for my new book, The Page Turner's Economy of Fear. Now, if you missed the first of these videos, the idea is we're doing little audio commentaries or video commentaries for the first few chapters of the book to give you guys a sneak preview of these first few chapters of the book, but also to give you a bit of insight into what I was thinking as an author and how I was coming at it. So last video, we looked at the prologue. So now we're into chapter 1, Strange Lights over Maplewright. And as we talked about previously, I love this idea from Fire Walk With Me of not returning immediately to our main characters. As much as we might like to, I think there's something really cool about kind of the anticipation of getting there. So we'll see with this chapter, we're one step closer. We're into Maplewright now. Now we're not right back to our kids, but we're at least in their town, in the town that the first book took place in. And so the chapter is available for download right below this video. Download the chapter, read it, and then come back here and watch the video, and we're going to talk about it. So as you see, this chapter stars Chip Crawford, and it's not really an Easter egg, but something I like to do, especially with a series like this, is bring back characters who were perhaps only mentioned in passing previously. So Chip Crawford here is actually, his gas station is mentioned in almost the first sentence of the first book, I think, after we leave Paradise Fields. The first book, The Page Turner's Blood, opens with a section from Paradise Fields, but then when we cut out of that, it's Nate in a classroom, and he's talking a bit about Maplewright, or thinking the narrator's talking about it, and we hear about Chip Crawford's gas station. He's mentioned a few other times throughout that first book. His father is the janitor Crawford, who has quite a number of scenes in the first book, and in one of them he mentions, or a couple of them he mentions his son. So anyway, just a little Easter egg or reward readers who are paying attention. Here's someone who we've heard about previously. Now he's kind of starring in his own chapter. And what we were going for in this chapter is really that pre-credits sequence from the X-Files. I'm a huge X-Files fan. I watched the entire series growing up. Big impact on me, and this chapter was really my attempt at one of those pre-credit sequences in the X-Files that every episode started with, where Mulder and Scully were rarely in them. Normally it was some sort of other character, and something paranormal would happen to them, and usually there would be a death, as we do here. Poor Chip Crawford doesn't survive. And something I'm also hinting at here, or preparing the reader for, is this is going to be a more violent book than the first one, especially in terms of body count. The first book, you might think of it as being, a fairly gory, violent book, but in fact, only 3 characters die in that first book, whereas and it really is a slow burn building up to that kind of more gory, violent moments and dead bodies and whatnot, whereas here we're right into it, where this is chapter 1, and between the prologue and the chapter we've already got 2 dead bodies. So in a sequel we want to amp up the stakes, we want to take things to the next level, right? So the threat level is being raised, and the violence is going to become more pervasive, and that's part of what's going on here, in terms of letting the readers know, people are going to die in this book. Nobody's safe, and we're dealing with some powerful evil forces that are they're going to take out some folks. There's going to be some bodies. Something else this chapter deals with is a fear of mine in terms of driving country roads at night. I grew up in a small country town. I was moved there as a teenager, so I feel like a city person at heart who was transposed to a country for a period of time as a teenager. Never felt comfortable there, and I was always very conscious of the fact that when you're driving those late night those dark roads in the country, It's real dark. If you lived in the city all your life, you haven't experienced dark until you've driven a highway, between small towns in the middle of the night, and there's just blackness and there's nothing around. And as a kid, all I could think was like, if our car broke down, we'd be really screwed, and if a UFO showed up, we'd be really screwed. So this is kind of playing out a fear of mine, is just this idea of driving through the blackness and having some sort of paranormal or UFO experience. That was always something that kind of really scared me, or I thought was like a scary idea as a teenager. And also just things like from Deliverance, like the film Deliverance, or House of a Thousand Corpses, or even Rocky Horror Picture Show. This idea that if your car breaks down in the middle of nowhere and you do have to go ask for help from these scary country folks, that they might not give you the type of help you're looking for. So as someone who feels like a city person, the country always feels like a very threatening, scary environment to be in. And so this chapter is kind of a nod to the X-Files. Big fan of the X-Files. It's playing up that fear of mine of being in the country, of being alone in the dark. And it's also kind of giving a hint that the book's becoming more violent, a little more action-oriented, because there's a transition here. Because the first Page Turner's book I really thought of as kind of a literary horror novel. And this book I really think of as a science fiction novel. And obviously, if you read the first book, science fiction, fantasy, and horror are kind of intermingling throughout the series. But the first book really focused on the horror threat. And in this book, this sci-fi threat of UFOs and aliens is going to become a lot more prominent. So that's the other thing this chapter is doing, is saying, hey, if you enjoyed that first book, we had some scary vampire stuff going on. Now we have scary UFO stuff going on. And so it's about starting with something exciting, but also positioning the reader to say, hey, this book's going to be a little different than the last one. And then finally, the last sentence of the chapter here is that once the UFO has done its business with Chip Crawford, it's headed off towards the Killick farm. So readers from the first book know Spencer Killick lives on a farm, and we still haven't gotten to our kids yet, but we've got our first hint of Spencer and his family, and perhaps the fact that they're perhaps in some danger because these scary lights in the sky are now headed Spencer's way. So there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed that little peek into my mind and what I was thinking when I put that chapter together. The Page Turners, I always got to grab the book here, right? The Page Turner's Economy of Fear is on sale July 6th, but I have a special pre-order campaign right now. When this video ends, there'll be a link on the screen. You can click. The URL is right down here at the bottom of the screen, where you can go over to my sales page, where there's all sorts of information about all the awesome bonuses I have going on for you right now if you pre-order the book. So if you pre-order it, you'll get it at a cheaper price. You'll get the audiobook from The Page Turner's Blood, the first book, totally free. So if you missed out, if you didn't get a chance to read that first book yet, or if you would like to revisit it, you get the audiobook for free, listen to the whole thing, you get caught up, and you'll be ready to dive into Economy of Fear when it arrives after July 6th. There's a free chapter there. There's a 45-minute interview with Catherine Brunel and myself, where we talk in depth about the book. If you're a fan at all of my podcast, it used to be called Ottawa Writes, now it's called Right Along Radio. Catherine Brunel and I have been hosting that podcast weekly for over a year, over 50 episodes, and if you've ever been curious about what the two of us look like, you can check out that video, because if you're a fan of the show, you've heard us talking together for hours. But this is a rare opportunity to actually see Catherine and I sit down on video and talk about writing for a prolonged period of time. So anyway, lots of cool bonuses coming your way. Click those links, pre-order that book, and I'll be back again with another commentary before long. Talk to you soon.